So taking a nice deep breath. I want to get started now. So I welcome all of you who are here in present time and all of you who will listen to this and see this in what some of us think of as future time. This is going to be a very auspicious lunar eclipse activation because there are so many other planets involved in this particular lunar eclipse. But I first want to welcome all of the states and the countries that are actually participating today. And that's really exciting to me. I'd had a vision that this would go global, my work would go global, and it definitely has. I did the Gaia Network, the Healing Matrix, and the outpouring of response was just so encouraging for my mission, which is to help you all prepare for change before it hits a crisis state and learn how to be able to intuit when to make changes, and then be able to activate your new purpose and then be an agent of change in the world. So why do we gather on a lunar eclipse? We gather on a lunar eclipse because it's like taking a full moon, which is a very powerful time to release the last 2 weeks, that you've been putting into place, for the month. But with a lunar eclipse, it has far-reaching implications. And we start to feel the energy of a lunar eclipse 6 weeks to 3 months prior. Now, this summer, we're dealing with 2 lunar eclipses and a solar eclipse. That's a lot of energy to be integrating and restructuring ourselves, because that's what's going on. There's a massive deconstruction, reconstruction going on. I've been talking about this with Pluto and Capricorn for a number of years, the death of the old way, the return of the US chart to where it was at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which will go exact next year. I'll talk about that more when we do the lunar eclipse in July, on July 5th, which is 1 degree, away from the US chart. So the US we're all being affected hugely by this massive transition, because it's not just the US, the entire world, we're all connected. This is a global lifequake going on. So on a lunar eclipse, it's about the releasing of the past. And given that 5th dimension reality is about that as well, we have an opportunity to gather together. And in this vortex that I've been building for days with all of you, the minute you signed up, they say with a workshop, the minute you sign up, the workshop begins. So the minute you signed up for this, you started to actually be worked on by me and the universe. So Spirit is wanting us together to activate and bring to the surface all of our judgments, because Sagittarius, which is what this lunar eclipse is in, it's the first lunar eclipse in Sagittarius for a number of years. We haven't had a lunar eclipse in Sag in 7 years. And the last time we had a massive lunar eclipse close to this, it's been even many more years than that. So the energy of Sagittarius is about examining, since we're talking about what we want to complete with lunar eclipses, examining our prejudices. And look how we're being given that opportunity this week with the tragedies that happened, and are being asked to, how can we support the family of George? How can we support all the people who've been affected by all of the protests and the ravaging of retail operations and people's homes and all that went on this week? Now, there's an astrological reason. From an astrological point of view, the Mars, which is like amazing, is almost like within exactitude square to this lunar eclipse, opposing Venus in Gemini in retrograde. So we have a T-square, and I'm going to explain what that means. We have this T-square involved in this lunar eclipse. So we're being asked to look at relationships, Mars and Venus, how we relate to others in terms of our masculine and feminine, as well as the Mars and Venus energy within us. Does our masculine and feminine, are they in partnership? You know, do you lean back and listen to the feminine part, which is our intuition, whether you're male or female? It is the intuitive part of us that lives in the body. You know, there's so much going on now with heart coherence and heart math becoming so worldwide popular that I'm just thrilled about that, because this is the key to really being able to access intuition is through the heart, to know what's the truth. And then it is the feminine, which is the heart's job to give the information to the masculine, which is the brain, to carry out its marching orders. Unfortunately, most of the time we rely on the brain. That's the Gemini energy, which is very cerebral, to make our decisions. And we're going to be called in this activation to be able to look at what in us. Sagittarius rules religion. It rules ideology on a negative level, or on a, let's just say unconscious, unawakened level. Sagittarius will rule righteousness. It rules, religious zealotry and all kinds of zealotry. So I did an inquiry, like, where does zealotry live in me? And I realized, when I was reading on the internet about how astrology has become the millennials' new religion, LA Times did an article, New York Times did an article, the New Yorker did an article on how astrology has become the millennials' new religion. I thought, it's kind of my religion now, so that's something I need to examine. It's to take a look at how dogmatic am I around astrology? How dogmatic, I would invite you to look at, are your views on politics? How dogmatic are your views on the environment? We can really be righteous about things where it's my way, not, if there's an opposition in terms of people having a conversation, how can you include? And that's what this Sagittarius Gemini energy is asking of us. In sixth dimension, which is above fifth dimension, in sixth dimension reality, the light and the dark collaborate, they work together. So in bringing this energy onto the planet right now, as well as fifth dimension reality, we're being called to look at how is both the dark stuff and all those who are working, perhaps in the dark, to manipulate and control on the planet, how are they working together actually with the light? Now, most people have a hard time really grokking that. Like, how does the light and the dark work together? But when we look at inside of us, where the light is, where do we love? Where do we accept? Where do we embrace that which is different? And where do we tend to have zealotry about our beliefs? A few weeks ago, I was given a dream, and this was literally about 3 weeks ago. I was given a dream. Ideological wars are going to begin, like the religious wars of the past. So the way in which you can work with this Sagittarian energy, because Sagittarius has so many different aspects to it. The highest frequency of Sagittarius is the truth. And, when I was teaching at university, I was teaching undergrad students in psychology many, many years ago. One of the things that the first thing I asked them about, because I was teaching a course on myth and archetype, was, what is the truth versus facts? And most people thought they were the same thing. Well, Sagittarius talks about truth without it being necessarily the facts. Gemini likes to have the facts, because it rules the cerebral brain. Sagittarius rules inspiration. And if you think about the word inspiration, it's about taking in the breath of God. To inspire means to take in the breath of God. So when you want to move, as we're going to do this activation, when you want to release, which is what the lunar eclipse is about, when you want to release from your consciousness prejudices, dogma that we are holding on to. The Republicans are bad, the Democrats are good, or vice versa. Trump is bad, Biden is good. All of this stuff. When we are able to include everyone's point of view, everything lightens up, and it allows us to actually lean back and get the truth. I just want to share one little piece before I start the activation. And it was a contemplation I had. I actually went online this morning and I looked at what was going on during the Nixon administration. Okay, very conservative Republican administration. Oh my goodness, you know, the anti-war movement, the gay liberation movement started in 1969 when he was elected in January. He started his term in January of 1969. You know, all of these, because as we still live in polarity, it is through polarity that we are galvanized toward change. So if for some reason we have another Republican, you know, administration, it may be because we still have work to do in terms of including everything and working on all of these issues, such as, you know, racial discrimination, you know, gender politics, which is still existing. You know, where we started this activation with the with the Me movement, but it's still going on in the workplace for women. You know, we still don't have the ERA. So there's work to be done. No matter who gets elected, it is for all of us to become visionary, Sagittarius. And so in this activation, I'm going to invite you to both look at what you want to release in terms of judgments that you hold. And boy, I'll tell you, when you start looking at your thoughts and you start looking at the judgments, like how quickly you snap a judgment about someone based on how they look, you know, it's amazing. So I'm just through this activation, it's going to just flush up to the surface. What you need to look at is just going to come right up to the surface. And then we're going to activate what the new vision is for you. What is it that wants to, you know, come through you, which is Sagittarius visionary for your life. We're going to do an activation later, which is about for the collective, you know, for our global, to take us, you know, through this global life quake. But for now, I'm going to invite you that once you do your release, because we always want to replace it with something, to look at what you want to replace it with by just allowing the holy self, what I call the holy self, WHOLY self. Some call it divine matrix, some call it the quantum field. It's unified consciousness, to let yourself be a vessel through which unified consciousness comes through you and activates. And it may be a place in your body that it actually wants to anchor. So pay attention to that as well. Where it wants to anchor is, what is the new vision? And because my work is very focused on career coaching, you know, and vocation of destiny coaching, I would invite you to look at what is it that is calling me now, that is either deepening or is activating a new purpose, you know, for my work. What part of my work wants to come forward now that is a replacement for anything that is no longer working? And that's what lunar eclipses are about. So think back as we start this on just the last couple of months while we've been in this very major portal. What is it in myself that's been showing up in my work environment? Like for me, I have just been working so hard. I've been having to, you know, I'm launching a book and online programs and all this kind of stuff all at once. And I see the workaholism because Sagittarius is in the house of the workplace for me. If you know your chart and you know where between 10 degrees and 20 degrees Sagittarius is in your chart, that may be an area for you to focus on. So there's a couple of pieces here, looking at what prejudices you have, what beliefs that you have, what shows up in your work that has been limiting you, that you're ready to let go of, and step into this new energy that allows you to really be a vessel for the visionary. I like that. I like that alliteration. Vessel for the visionary. Okay. So you might want to start with actually putting your hands out, like so your palms are facing forward, so that you can actually emit the energy, start building energy. Because we're a collective, although we're going to be doing personal work in this activation, we're a collective energy. So everything we do for ourselves and for others. As we heal ourselves, we heal others. So taking some nice deep breaths. And then turning within, closing your eyes, and just scanning your body and seeing if there's a place where things aren't flowing, where there might be blockage, it could be actual pain, where something doesn't feel quite right, that's out of balance. So allow yourself to be with that part. Be with that part. Sagittarius rules the liver, and I'm going to be actually talking about some change management tools for the liver later on in this program. But for now, it might be a place for you to even focus some energy on cleansing, liver cleansing, just with your hands. Your hands are healing tools. By putting your hands over your liver or any other place in your body that's calling out, you can actually send radiant light through your hands. Remembering all the times you've used these hands to show love, touching children, touching partners and family and animals, your fur children for some people. All of that energy is in your hands. It's still aggregated in your hands, all that love. So we're now turning it toward a place in your body where there's contraction, where the energy isn't moving so easily. The liver carries anger. So just notice even where have I been really stirred up and angry in the last few weeks and few months as we're moving into this Sagittarius energy. And now asking your body, what is one limiting belief that I've been carrying that has a zealotry about it, like I'm right, a real energy that's very Mars-like, because Mars, as I said, is very involved in this lunar eclipse. So Mars is the planet that rules. He was the god of war, and he rules how we physically move through life. So one of the things we're looking at with, Mars squaring this energy is how are we working with our anger? And now, if you feel called to, allow yourself to open your crown chakra. And through the crown chakra, above your head, just invite a golden column of light. There's a place in the universe that I like to access called the central sun, where many spiritual masters emanate from. If that works for you, you can call in the light from the central sun. But just allow a beautiful column of golden light to wrap itself around your brain, quieting the brain, just very gently allowing this light to love your brain. All the way down to the root base of the brain, where our brainstem is, and where the most primitive, oldest part of our brain from the times when we were in primitive times, where that fight or flight gets activated, fear gets activated. And just allow that beautiful light to now drop down your spinal cord, all the way down, just letting it come all the way down the vertebra, the nerves that surround the spinal cord, all the way to the base of the spine. Just breathing that down, just gently breathing it down. And as you breathe it down the spine, just feel yourself calming. one of the really positive aspects of Sagittarius is adaptability. When you're accessing the archetype of Sag, you're able to connect with, the aha moment, the inspiration, the truth, and then act with agility, emotional and physical and mental agility. So when we allow our spine and central nervous system to calm, to become centered, it's easier to be agile. So breathing that down, and then sending a grounding cord down your legs into Mother Earth so that you are grounding yourself. And as you send that grounding cord down into Mother Earth, you can send with it whatever you're wanting to release. So whatever it is that is a prejudice or ideology or a fierce belief that that there's a lot of emotional trigger around that you see is not working for you anymore. And allowing that to go down into Mother Earth, and just let her transmute it, because she knows how to do that. And if there's anything else that you're aware of right now, just allowing it to come up from your subconscious, prejudices that you find you have. One that was coming up for me the other day was, I'm just coughing it up here. One that was coming up for me the other day, and I've had a couple clients, who said the same thing, is millennials gathering and not social distancing. Now that, the laws have been, loosened a little bit, around getting together and gathering. And so there's been some of that going on in North Carolina. And I'm sure other places, they had footage in Miami of this. And, just looking at your prejudices, or your judgments, And so I had to look at what are the beliefs I have about millennials. Some of them are really amazing, in terms of how I see them as so much more advanced than all of us, baby boomers and Gen Xers. But, there's also this thing about what I interpret youth does, which is we think we're going to be immortal. So we take, risks that could affect other people. So I had to look at that, just looking at whatever it is that stands in the way of you being your most loving self. And when you are actually in your office, just kind of scanning a day in your office and see if there's any health practices that you could either institute more of, or work practices that are not working for you. And let that go. Just let it go down your legs, through your feet, down into Mother Earth, where we are releasing it all. And now we're going to activate what is a new practice that you could put into place in your work arena that would support you in being able to really express your soul purpose at work, SOUL, purpose at work. One for me is taking a nap in the afternoon. I take a nap, and if I don't take a nap, trying to work, several hours after that, I just don't function very well. So that's something that I really want to keep as a practice of, consistency every day, Just notice what might be something you activate. as a new practice that supports you. I'm going to just offer one more here that might be helpful, which comes from also from my book, The Lifequake Miracle, and also my CD, is taking an emotional pulse check, which is every 3 hours, checking in. Where am I? Am I in balance? Am I angry? Am I frustrated? Am I impatient? Am I bored? You know, and reconnecting with your source, you know, whatever that takes. 5 minutes, even if you can just take 5 minutes out to just open your body and reconnect with source. So twice during the workday. And just see if there's anything else wants to show up to activate that your spirit is asking of you to do. Okay. Now, taking 3 deep breaths, anchoring the new practice, whatever it is that you are now going to commit to bringing into your work environment that will support you. There's no accident that in astrology, our health habits and our work habits and the workplace are all in the same house, the 6th house. It's ruled by Virgo. So, what is it that you want to activate now? And now anchor that into your body so that when you need it, when you've lost your balance, when you're tired or irritated, that you can go to that place, put your hand over just this neuro-linguistic programming. Go back to where you anchored this new habit, this new practice into your body. And breathe into that place 3 times. Yes. 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 Now notice how that feels. And then gently allow yourself to slowly come back to the room and just notice if you feel differently than when you went into the activation, if you feel lighter, more open, more enthusiastic. That's another aspect of Sagittarius, is enthusiasm. And just slowly letting yourself come back to the room. People who have either their sun sign in Sagittarius or their sun sign in Gemini, moon sign, rising sign, even Venus, between 10 and 20 degrees, if you know your chart, will be most affected by this lunar eclipse. However, you know, we're all a collective. So what happens to part of our collective happens to all of us. President Trump's chart is being affected. He's a Gemini with a Sag moon. But again, not all Geminis and Sag moon people are the same. For example, Nicole Kidman, you know, is a Gemini with a Sag moon. I'm going to be talking in my vlog that's starting tomorrow, that will be in my newsletter, about her chart and what I see as what she is going to perhaps provide in the country as another leader, you know, doing things through the entertainment industry to support humanity going through this transition. So there may be people you know whose birthdays are around, you know, so this would be 15 degrees Sagittarius is around the 7th of December, you know, give or take 5 days on either side, you know, of this. So people born around this time will really experience an identity change. They're going to be going through a death and rebirth. And the same thing on the Gemini side, we'll see people born May 30th to about June the 10th, also experiencing the energy of the lunar eclipse actually creating a death process. We're going through a cosmic barbecue, as I talked about in stage 4 of my book, as a collective. So we're being called to go through death and rebirth, each individually, to be looking at our shadow, to be looking at, as I mentioned earlier, our prejudices. So what I want to talk about is just some treatments. I am not a physician, so I'm just going to share some of the ones that I use for my liver, because Sagittarius rules the liver and the hips. And because the hips are about how we move through life, and with Mars, the planet that is about how we physically move through life involved, it's going to really also include, because Mars and Venus are opposing and squaring this eclipse, the kidneys and the adrenals. So all of these organs, the liver has 500 functions. So in this segment, I want to talk about change management tools for the liver and through medical astrology. And so a couple of herbs that, anyone can try out and see how they work for you, because again, it's individual, and I'm just going to stay with things that are pretty benign, because we don't want to ever overload the liver by detoxing too fast. And sometimes when people do liver cleansing supplements that have a lot of things in them, they can overload the liver. But gentle things to help with cleansing the liver is dandelion, so dandelion tea, organic dandelion tea, artichoke leaf, milk thistle. What are some others? I'm just trying to think. There's astragalus is another one that's really helpful for the liver. So, just cleansing the liver with your hands, placing your hands, especially if you've just been angry about something, somebody cut you off in traffic, or you just had an argument with your spouse or one of your children, or a client, pissed you off for some reason. Immediately, neutralizing the liver through clearing anger out of your system is so, so, so important. So taking a moment, when you've released this anger, sending it into the earth, replacing it with love, and then leaning back in and going, okay, what's this about? What is triggering me? Okay, what is it that I need to own that's unfinished business from my past that this event or this person is triggering in myself? So this is a very important emotion to be taking on, anger. As we, have had so many reasons, with the economy starting to go through this amazing slowdown. And by the way prior to having a pandemic, I talked about that there was going to be an economic reconstruction. It was coming. So but you lose your job or you lose your income, that can piss you off. So whatever it is that you need to do to cleanse your body of anger so you can restore, because the kidneys and the adrenals are affected as well. When the adrenals are activated, through that fight or flight, it then deposits all of that, ammonia kind of gets dumped into the liver. And one of the things that actually helps to neutralize, I take glutamine. Now that's just me, but glutamine is just so incredible for coating the lining of the intestinal tract, and as well as cleansing ammonia out of the liver. So that's something that I'm just recommending that, that I take. I can't recommend it as a physician, but I just found it to be really helpful for soothing my intestinal tract if I've been under stress. So now I want to start the third segment here, which is the second activation. And this activation is so important because it's about you participating in global change. So please stay on with us and participate in this. The last stage of the model that I developed, the Lifequake repurposing map, in the 7th stage, I talk about what altruism does for us. And the president of the American Psychiatric Association just came out with this data on all these people who have recovered from COVID-19, who have then gone out and started doing, because they now have the antibodies, doing all kinds of volunteer work. There was a nurse who had been really sick, and the minute she recovered, she went and became a travel nurse, in Boston. So, what we know about altruism, it is, even in something as simple as the activation we're going to participate in now, that altruism increases T cells. So when you are helping others, when you are doing for others, when you're holding a vision for the planet, all of those things will stimulate T cells and strengthen your immune system. So the minute your mind starts to get sucked in, Sagittarius rules the media as well. It rules publishing and broadcast media and marketing. And know that that's what sells, is, the media, whether it's social media or if it's broadcast media, that what sells is instilling fear in people. So when you're aware that you've gotten caught up in the news and it's triggering fear in you, it's really important to lean back into your Sagittarius archetype and connect with your vision of the new world. So that's what we're going to be doing next. Is you're going to be given an opportunity to see what is it that you want to see released and transmuted from the world and then activated into a new form. Because Sagittarius rules foreign countries and we are all connected. And today we have 11 different countries on the line: the Netherlands, Germany, the UK, Hong Kong, so Singapore and Hong Kong. We have Australia. We have 3 parts of Canada, 20 states in our country here. So this is the global intention here, that you have an opportunity to, in your intention in this next activation, to participate with everyone on this program, to see a new vision for the world and to absolutely fight for that new vision. And I mean fight for it, not in terms of acrimony, which is divisiveness, but fight for it in terms of your stand. Where are you standing on the new vision for the world? Because that's what's happening. Every single time we've gone through an evolutionary shift, has started with a crisis. Now, someday, when we get out of, dual reality and into non-duality, we may not have to do that. Hopefully not. I mean, that will be the nature of things. We won't have to first create crisis. But as it is now, we have to first have things fall away before we can create the new. So allowing yourself now to take a deep breath, close your eyes. Now turning within. Once again, bringing your breath as you turn within, bringing your breath down into your body, breathing through your mouth. And now bringing your awareness to your heart, placing your hands over your heart. And just have yourself set an intention for what it is that you are committed through your thoughts and your actions as a new part of the new world. What are you willing to do to participate in a collective vision? So allowing yourself now to experience that new world. What would the new world be like? Again, listening to the Holy Self who brings it through you. And like a movie, just let scenes, just one scene after another, just roll like a movie in terms of the new vision of the world that we're coming into for you. And then take a moment and look at what is it that I'm willing to do in terms of committing to reducing my carbon footprint to affect this world change. And notice what feeling comes through you as you experience both yourself stepping into a more proactive stance for the world, for the healing of this planet, for the healing of all sentient beings on this planet. And just notice, allow that to flood through your whole body now. Allow for there to be, Sagittarius, as I said, rules enthusiasm, which means from the Latin, filled with God. So allow yourself to become filled with whatever God is for you. Whatever would allow for you to feel enthusiastic about the new world we're stepping into. And then just gently allow yourself to come back to the room. If you haven't already. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing another eclipse, because the next 2 weeks, we'll have a solar eclipse in 2 weeks on Sunday, June 21st. We'll be doing it at the same time, 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, noon East Coast time, and wherever that is in the world for you. And that will be the solar eclipse, and then we'll be doing another lunar eclipse 2 weeks later on July 5th, which is also a Sunday. So in the meantime, I just invite you to not jump right into your day after we say goodbye, but instead actually take a moment and contemplate everything that you experienced and what you're committing to as we move into this new world. Thank you for joining me.